programs if we're able to. Okay. All right. So the meeting is being recorded. If you miss any part and you want to come back to it, you can. It'll be on our website, I assume, Liz. Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to take a lot of time because we have a lot of people who are going to be speaking today. I'm one of them, and I will speak very quickly. I am thrilled to see how many people signed up for this meeting because, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the board, we need each other more now than we ever did. And we need to let people know that we're here. This meeting is a gift that was thought of by Carmine DeSena, who some of you know from Northwell, our partner at Northwell Health. He ran the PROS program until he retired very recently. And since PROS from Northwell and Unites from NAMI Queens Nassau are working together now, and I'm not going to speak about it, you'll find out about it from our speakers. But since we're working together and getting to know each other, Carmine wanted our families to merge, and he wanted PROS families and Northwell families to know what NAMI offers. And that was the whole idea behind tonight. And then he retired, not resigned, and he couldn't even be with us. He's traveling already. But you'll meet him another time. He's always been involved with our educational meetings. So, I can't tell by looking at the names on the screen if there are any families here from PROS. I hope there are, but we will be meeting more. You'll find out at the end of this meeting. David Sills is going to talk to you at the very end about what we're doing at the next monthly meeting. And I hope you stay on till the end for that. And if you can't, please call us and find out what we're going to be doing next month. It's vitally important to all of us. But the messaging starts tonight. Tonight we meet NAMI Queens Nassau. I'm honored to be the president of the group at this time. I want to quickly introduce all our board members who are here. You heard from Gail and David and know a little bit about their marriage. So David and Gail, say hi. Okay, I see Gail Karen, who is our treasurer. By the way, David was past president for a long time, and Gail Sills you'll get to know because she's the head of membership, my old job. So I'll be working on that too. I love that committee. Gail Karen is our treasurer, and she'll be speaking tonight about Sharing and Caring, which is a group we run, a support group we run together on Sunday nights. She'll tell you all about that. Marianne Green, say hi. Marianne is one of our newest members. She joined recently, and we're thrilled to have her. Her sister, Jane McDermott, is also a board member, but I don't see Jane. Is she still traveling?
Yes, she is. She's in LA.
She's still traveling, yeah. And let's see, I think that's it for board members. Liz Hildebrandt is here. She's our executive director. And John Johnson, say hi. He'll be speaking to you about Pathways to Hope. And Kimberly and Matt are here for peer. And Gail Karen will also, no, Gail Sills will be speaking about Unites. So I'm going to turn.
Excuse me, you could add me to the list, Debbie Uckley.
Oh, Debbie, I didn't see you. Oh, there you are. Okay, Debbie is going to be talking about ending the silence. Absolutely. And Debbie is Kimberly's mom. Okay. All right. So did I miss anybody? All right. I'm going to turn you. Liz, did you want to say anything before we turn it over to Gail?
Just that what I'm going to do is mute everybody on and just, message me or message the whole group in the chat if everybody could use their chat to express any question maybe that's immediate. But we're going to do all the question and answer at the very end. So either put it in the chat if you have to go, or you'll have an opportunity to raise your hand either through the icon of the bar at the bottom, or physically raise your hand if you can't you know, if that is a problem to do that. But I'm going to mute everybody so that the speaker has the opportunity to speak unimpeded, and then we'll have a conversation at the end. I don't think there's too many people to make that a problem. And I'm going to spotlight it so the person who's speaking will be larger on everybody's screen. Hopefully I do that correctly. Does anybody have any questions immediately before we go?
No.
Okay. So there we go. Let's get started. And so Gail, or
I'm here.
want to introduce
I'm
Jodie.
here. I'd like to start off with saying that all of us have very varied needs. One of my needs, and I'm sure some of you can relate to that, is housing for our loved ones. A few weeks ago, I had a wonderful experience in speaking to Dionne, who is just an expert in how we can get housing for our loved ones. Jodie is the director of the intake service for WellLife Network. She holds a double master's in psychology and mental health counseling and is a licensed mental health counselor. In March, Jodie celebrated 22 years of working in mental health housing. She spent the first half of her career working direct care and in supervisory residential housing. She has been working in intake since 2013. She's very well versed in the various types of housing WellLife Network has to offer, as well as in the ins and outs of the application processes for both Long Island and the boroughs. I am so honored and so pleased to welcome Jodie to our group tonight. I thank you so very much for joining us, and we all look forward to you sharing your knowledge with us and helping us through the processes. Everyone say hi to Jodie.
Hi,
Hi, Jodie.
Jodie.
Hi, everybody. Gail, thank you so much for that. It's so nice to meet everybody. Gail's right. My name is Jodie Dionne. I'm going to apologize in advance too. I have a cold, so it's probably better that we're doing this by Zoom, so I'm not giving everybody else my cold. But if you hear me cough, I apologize. And if you hear my dogs barking in the background, I apologize too, because the Zoom often brings background noise. But so NAMI, Liz had reached out to WellLife and said, hey, is anybody able to come and give a presentation to our group when we meet? Because we have a lot of folks that have a lot of questions about housing. And I said, I will come do that. I've been in housing for just about 22 years now. It's what I do. It's what I love to do. WellLife Network, we are a firm believer, as am I personally, that everybody deserves a home, right? Doesn't matter who you are, where you're coming from. If you have needs, you have a psychiatric disability, we want to help you find a house. We want to help you find the place that's going to be your home, right? This is going to be the part where it's very frustrating for everybody too. You have loved ones that need housing. You have loved ones that you're trying to get into mental health housing. And I'm sure a lot of you hear time and time again, oh, there's a wait list. Oh, your individual, your loved one is not a priority. Oh, our priorities are the people coming from the state hospitals or from a regular psychiatric hospital or from jail or from a homeless shelter. And those are things that I can't imagine how frustrating it is to hear time and time again. So I think the premise of what we're talking about is just kind of discussing the ins and outs of housing. I'll go a little bit over the continuum that my agency has, and I can talk to you about how the application process works and then where your advocacy is going to continue to be so important for you as family with loved ones that are going to need mental health housing at some point or another, okay? I think we all know in the basics of housing that there are a couple of different levels of care that somebody can be considered for. We still have in all of our existing housing models for mental health housing, 24-hour supervised housing, apartment treatment housing, which is more intermediate, and supported housing, which is more independent. Most often, those housing models are shared environments. So that is something to keep in mind too. As we are all not-for-profit agencies, as we all have some state licensed opportunities, the way that the housing models were set up, they were set up many years ago. And we are finding time and time again right now that they are just not quite what we need them to be for our current individuals' needs, right? So, what that means is, say, for example, I have a loved one that I want to bring into housing, and I think that my loved one should be someplace where there are staff there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because they need help. And I go and I say, hey, provider, I need this application for this person. And that provider is going to say, great, we don't have that opportunity for you. Right. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. All of the reasons that I talked about a couple of minutes ago, but also times are changing. And the way that we're looking at individuals in terms of what their strengths are and what their needs are very different than what we used to do. When I was speaking with Gail and Janice a couple of weeks ago, what we were talking about is I don't have a loved one who has a psychiatric disability, and I don't have a loved one who's in need of housing, right? So I will never fully understand what it is for a family member to have somebody that they care about so very much, and they want to see them be in housing where they're going to be safe and cared for and looked after, be in a position where they're hearing something completely different than what they want to hear for their loved one, right? But I can talk about housing from the provider side of things, right? So all of the years that OMH has been doing this, and they've been talking about the different ways to help people into mental health housing, needs and strengths are two very different things now. And what somebody can do and what their capabilities are going to be is something that they factor into the equation so much more than they used to, right? So they try to help people to get to the most independent level of care possible with the least amount of services possible. And for the person that's going into housing, they're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Because here I am now, I'm going to be in a position where I can actually show what I do. But the reality of that for people that really love them and care for them and have seen them go through hospitalizations and everything else for so many years, that's a terrifying place to be, right? So now it's how do we build relationships? How do we work with the providers? How do we understand the difference of opinion with all of this? And how do we make it work, right? So there are a lot of different ways to do that. If we're talking about just trying to get somebody into housing, right, and that individual has been at home with the family for a very long time, the reality of getting into housing is slim, and that is a really frustrating thing. And I say slim because I want to be as realistic as possible. I was talking a few minutes ago about priority populations and how they look at the priority populations very differently. So folks coming out of state hospitals, folks coming out of incarceration, and alternatives to incarceration. And these are all the systems and the ways that the state and the city have set up to help people get into housing. And if people are what is considered stably housed at this point in time, then they're unfortunately not considered a priority, which realistically speaking is terrible because you have folks that are in a home for a long period of time and need to know the next steps. Families have been doing their absolute best for their loved ones for years and years and years. And either the parents are aging or somebody's passed away or they're unable to continue to work with their loved one, right? There are so many different reasons why it's just no longer a good fit. And because we believe that everybody deserves a home and a home where they're going to thrive, opportunities should be available to everybody in need. Unfortunately, the way that the systems operate and the way that they see priorities is very different than the way you or I might see those priorities. So here we are talking about advocacy now, right? So because this is Nassau and this is Queens, we have a couple of different options that we're working with. For the individuals that live in Nassau County and are trying to get their loved one into housing in Nassau County, the option is doing a SPA application, right? Single point of access. I'm sure that is familiar to some of you, but if not, single point of access is the entity that kind of manages all of the housing referrals for all of Nassau County. And they take all of those referrals, they review them, and they say, okay, John Doe is appropriate for this level of care. Jane Doe is appropriate for this level of care, right? But then they look in terms of, is this person a priority placement? No, they're stably housed, they live at home. Okay, they're on the list, but what point is that number going to come up, right? And there's no clear answer that anybody can give in terms of what a wait list looks like, because in theory, there just aren't real wait lists. It's until a bed comes available. Some agencies like mine, we do have beds for people coming from the community, people coming from regular local hospitals, but those beds come up very few and far between because we know with housing, once you find it, you're going to stick with it for as long as you possibly can, right? In Queens, in the boroughs, if you're looking for housing, the application process is HRA. HRA 2010E is not an application that can be completed by a family member. And that is really frustrating in and of itself, because if you're trying to advocate for your loved one and you're trying to find them housing, now you have to bump another person to help out with something. So Suffolk County is also SPA. And you volunteer for NAMI in Huntington. That's good to know. Thank you. But I live near Huntington. I'm part of Huntington Township, so SPA is the same, Suffolk County or Nassau County, but they are very county centric, I guess you could say. So if you live in Suffolk County, you have to apply for housing in Suffolk County. If you live in Nassau County, you have to apply for housing in Nassau County. They will not approve across county lines. HRA will approve anybody coming from any place, but you need somebody to complete that application for you. So for individuals that are linked up with the PROS program, the practitioner of PROS should be able to complete an HRA 2010E application. For individuals that are linked up with care coordination or health home, those providers should also be able to complete an HRA 2010E application. There are priority codes and priority populations. That's a whole big process, but simply stated, if your loved one lives at home, they have stable housing, they have, all of their needs being met, they're not considered a priority. And then there's only certain beds that they can have access to, because every agency like mine, we receive contracts with OMH and contracts with Department of Health. And those contracts give us stipulations for how we can work with different people. In intake, I do often get calls from town council or from a local council's office, county executives, all people. I have this person who needs such and such with this and this and that and that. And they say, I am so happy to hear that you're advocating for this individual. I have nothing I can do to help you because I am completely beholden to the process that we have for everything. So I want to have a magic wand that I can just wave and give everybody their own apartment wherever they need to be that's going to help them to thrive, or their own residential treatment facility, or whatever it is that's going to help them meet their needs and thrive in housing. But the reality of housing is that there's an application process. It's long. There's often red tape, and it is often extremely frustrating. The best advice that I can give to everybody, if you are thinking about housing for somebody that you love that has a psychiatric disability, is start the process early, even if you think that they're not ready for it right now, even if it's something that you don't want to consider for a few more years. Applications are only good for a year at a time, but it is good to be versed in what you're going to need to have. So for anybody that's going to need mental health housing, it's going to start with a psychiatric evaluation and a psychosocial summary. And those are things that establish if somebody has a long-standing, what they consider a serious mental illness, serious and persistent, preventing somebody from being able to function on their own without some level of support, right? That information needs to be updated annually. If your loved one is already involved in treatment, that is fantastic, because it means that you have that option to ask for those referrals on a regular basis. But put the feelers out there. If you are in Suffolk County or in Nassau County, start the application process. Help them work through the process. Know that application process. Get it updated every year, right? Get to know the SPA people, single point of access. They have a coordinator for Nassau County and a coordinator for Suffolk County. HRA is different because it is a city-run entity. So once you have an application, it just needs to be, it's valid for a year, and then it would need to be updated every year. I hear unfortunate stories from families all the time where they say, I've had my family waiting for housing for 5 years, and I would believe it. So The ongoing plug is advocate. So when they have any kind of lobbying days, when they have any kind of advocacy time that you can talk about mental health housing, what your needs are, talk about how hard it is for the families to really help their individual, right? Talk about your experiences and why people need to have the same access to housing. Everybody needs a place to live. Everybody deserves to have that peace of mind to know that my person that I love is going to be someplace where they are going to be okay, right? And housing is one of those things. If your individual is telling you, I can't live with anybody else, realistically speaking, I would help them to understand why roommates can be okay. It's really hard to come by single apartments in many situations, in supervised living, in apartment treatment program, in supported housing. All of those levels have mixed apartments, which means that typically in like an apartment treatment program, there might be two other roommates. In a supported housing program, there might be one other roommate. And everybody always has their own bedroom, at least with my agency. I do still hear about some agencies that do bedroom share, and I know that they're doing their best to get away from those scenarios, but a lot of times you have to have a roommate. And we have individuals that say, well, I don't get along with other people. I might get paranoid. I might feel bad. These are very good opportunities to work on people skills to some extent, social skills. We're not saying that anybody needs to be best friends, but helping people get to the point where they can at least be comfortable with having a roommate. Um, I don't know if any of you have ever had roommates over the years growing up before you moved into your house and had your family and everything else. I had roommates. Sometimes I loved them, sometimes I did not like them. I was very happy to be able to move on and, move on to my house and my family and so on. But everybody's situation is different. So I don't want to paint a bad picture of housing because the services that are available in housing, the case management, the oversight, the ongoing education and support that people are offered in any kind of housing is fantastic. It can help somebody who has trouble remembering to take their medication learn to take their medication. It has the opportunity to help people learn to work on developing social skills, develop some daily living skills, develop some sense of community, understand what it is to have a home or to feel like they belong someplace outside their family. The services that are provided, substance abuse services, socialization, medication management, health services. A lot of our individuals have chronic ongoing health needs and they need to learn how to help themselves take care of those. Services that my agency offers outside of housing, like care coordination or PROS program that I spoke about a few minutes ago too. Those are wonderful resources for individuals in terms of helping them to be as independent as they possibly can be in housing, right? So there are so many good things that come along with housing, but getting to the point where you can access and then understanding the ins and outs of the housing and what comes along with it, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, is also something that is really important. So when we were speaking with Gail and Janice before coming in to talk today, they said, please be as realistic as possible with housing. And I said, you got it. I will be as realistic as possible. I hate when somebody calls me and they say, I'm going into a nursing home and I have my son who's 35 years old. They've never lived on their own before, and I need them to have a house next week. And I say, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. We're not going to be able to make that happen. We are going to be able to start the process. I can give you guidance. I can give you direction. I can point you in the right direction. The process is horrifyingly confusing unless you have somebody break it down to you. And I say that even on a good day. It took me years to learn all of the ins and outs of housing. And I do this every single day. So, for somebody that's just looking at it from the outside, it's a long process. It can be daunting. It can be frustrating. Learn who your resources are, learn who you can talk to about the process and the different things that you would need to help you out along the way. And really, anytime you have an opportunity to advocate. We need housing. We need equal opportunity housing for everybody that needs housing. It can't just be priority populations. It has to be accessible for everybody that has need. Liz or Gail, is there anything else that you want me to add?
Can you articulate why New York State, because I presume every state does this a little differently, does not keep a list? I just find it difficult to advocate to legislators when there's not a number.
How do you mean they don't keep a list?
So is there a list? Is there 40,000 people waiting for mental health housing or supportive housing?
I wish I had an answer for the state. I don't, because I'm not part of the state entities to be able to explain why they do or don't.
But for Nassau County, or for the counties that you serve, I should say.
So for Nassau County, that would be a good question for SPA. SPA does keep a wait list. I don't know how long it is. They wouldn't give us that information even if I asked for it. And I know that it has to do with the number of beds that they have for the number of different contracts. So you might hear them refer to Target A, right? Target A is for individuals coming straight out of the state hospitals. And they might have a wait list for the number of beds that they have for that. Or for community beds, they might have X number of beds there, right? And one of the things that SPA does, which in theory is kind of cool, but in reality can be very frustrating, is that they review all of the applications that come in to single point of access for housing. And they look at each application and they say, okay, this one is a Target A, this one is a community, this one is an acute, this one is a this. Where do we have vacancies that match up, right? So, for example, Target A, the individuals coming out of the state psychiatric hospitals, there are very few people coming out of the state psychiatric hospitals or out of their what they call transitional living residences, their SOCRs, that are ready to move straight from that level of care into a supported housing, which is very independent, right? So there are a number of vacancies that will sit in those programs and be open for a long period of time because they don't have anybody that can fill those beds. The state has not eased up on their contract requirements to allow people that do not meet Target A requirements to access those beds. And that is something that I think is very frustrating for a lot of people, housing providers, because we would like to be able to fill all our vacancies. And also folks that are waiting for a bed to come available, right? Because they might hear like, oh my gosh, this contract has all of these beds open, but we can't access them. And it's because of the red tape that the state has determined needs to be there. And I can't speak for why they do things the way that they do, because again, that's the state and they hold the contracts. They don't give us the insight into those things, unfortunately. But I can speak from my side of things, what I'm able to see and what we're able to accomplish and what we're not. So,
Two things that I think are important for everybody to understand is that
mm,
most mental health and supportive housing organizations allow you to come in for a tour. And I really
correct.
encourage everybody to do that because I think everybody would be really surprised that they're not big, scary cinder block buildings. And I encourage everyone to initiate that. Let me ask you a question, Jodie, and then that'll be it. And next person can speak, what have
Mm-hmm.
you. But is that the process? So to initiate the process. So let's say I know I want my loved one to eventually be in mental health in supportive housing.
Okay.
I know that my loved one is not ready right now, but I know I need to initiate the process. I know that the paperwork is mountainous and ridiculous and verification of beginning of onset of illness and all these things are asked. So what is a realistic time frame that somebody might plan wants to be proactive about that? So they start, let's say tomorrow, how long do you have patience to wait, or how long, what's a realistic time frame and a step process that way?
So a realistic time frame, if you're going to start gathering paperwork tomorrow, say we're talking about Nassau County and we're talking about doing a SPA application. You will need to get together a psychiatric evaluation. You will need to get together a psychosocial summary and also a physical and updated PPD. And those would be your supporting documents that you need. In the body of the psychiatric evaluation or the psychosocial summary, any psychiatrist or therapist who is doing the assessment would identify in there how long somebody has had a psychiatric disability. So if onset of
Let me stop.
schizophrenia,
So let's say I'm a very uninformed caregiver, and all of those words are just meaningless to me, and I don't know where to start. And my loved one, though, is not consistent with his or her psychiatric care, it really has that one-to-one relationship, and I'm shut out of that process. So do you ever manage that process for an individual or for a family to help them through that?
we can't. So like in my intake department, I don't have the capability of doing that because we receive referrals, but who can help with that would be a care coordinator
Okay.
or a health home. So care coordination and health homes are wonderful resources for people to be able to start having those conversations and bridging that gap.
Okay.
So we were talking about time frame.
Yes.
I have somebody that started the process in August, and they have finally just gotten their psychiatric evaluation now. And for a number of different reasons, illness, setback, what have you. And they are almost to the point where they can submit their SPA application. So that 6 months could be a realistic point for somebody, but it could also take, and again, depending on the factors of the variables involved for the family member, it could take up to a year. If I have somebody that is more versed or has care coordination, the application process does go much more quickly. So I always encourage everybody to keep in mind what your community supports are and learn about those. I'm interested in getting housing for my daughter who is 35. I think that she might, I have no idea what's out there in any way, shape, or form, but I do know that there has to be somebody out there that can help me. Nassau County, I believe, does have resources, and I believe Suffolk County does also. They have resource pages, but care coordination is one of your best resources to help with the process.
I can just tell you firsthand that it took me 3 years to get a care coordinator. So,
Yeah,
it's not a
yeah.
smooth process.
No,
So
it's also not a smooth process either. And again, I have people that can pick up with care coordination in a week, and I have people that it will take up to 3 years to get care coordination, and it depends on so many different things.
somebody put in the chat here, transitional placements called rockers or ROCA. Is that something, another?
So those are Sockers and Rockers are state operated community residences.
Oh, okay.
Rocker, I don't remember what the Rocker acronym is, but it's basically operated community residence.
Okay.
So it is a transitional living residence that is typically run by the state.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
I can think of a number of them.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. State transitional placements called Rockers or Rocker acronym. I know that, like I said, I know the soccer one, SOCR, state operated community residence. It's something similar. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And if
So
you
that's
have
not something that they would help. That's just somebody who does similar things to yourself.
right, exactly. So state operated community residence is so say somebody had to go to Pilgrim for 6 months to a year, and they were leaving Pilgrim, but they were needing to transition into like a supervised residence. Most typically, Pilgrim would refer them for a state operated community residence where they would live for a transitional period of time while they acclimated to being back in the community. They learned some of those life skills that they may not have remembered that they needed to take care of while they were in the hospital, right? So, getting a routine down, getting comfortable taking care of living space again, maybe getting comfortable with cooking again, remembering what it is I have to go out of the house for my appointment this morning, so I need to remember to lock up. I need to bring my keys with me. I need to have my ID, dress appropriately for the weather, so many different things. So if somebody has agoraphobia and they are scared to go outside, can care coordination come to the house? Yes, they can. Care coordination can come to the house. But it would be evaluated on a case by case basis. And if it's somebody that needs medication management and is scared to leave the house, there are, ACT teams that can also go out into the community to meet with people that can be a very good resource in terms of medication management out in the community. And I think that there's a SPOA form in Nassau County that would need to be completed for care coordination. And then I saw another question. Are care coordinators the same as home health coordinators? It's basically interchangeable. We have care coordination that is part of a health home, but they all basically have that same oversight where they are linked up to a system. So, like my agency has care coordination, ACMH has care coordination, um, Northwell has care coordination. They're linked up to a health home, so they have access to, I think, other things where they're linked up to their pros clinic and they have the psychiatrist and they have the other more readily available things there too.
One last question I have for you is in terms of WellLife, you know, you guys all know each other in the housing world. And when I was talking with Yolanda at Options and Larry at TSI and all this, they're like, WellLife is massive now. WellLife is everywhere. And I
Yes.
see that W logo everywhere. And I know you do all different kinds of services. But
Yes.
in terms of supportive housing, and there is so many different kinds of housing, levels of housing, obviously, but in terms of supportive housing, where do you guys sit? Are you the largest in the metro area or not necessarily, or just one of the larger ones or?
We're one of the larger ones. We're not the largest by far. SUS is also very large. So is ACMH. So is TSI. But we all have different types of housing and different contract types. So, for example, in my supportive housing, which is the more independent level of care, we have about 500 beds that are a scattered site, right? And that refers to, shared apartments in the community, just like where anybody else would live, case manager that comes to visit once a month. I have, like I said, around 500 beds, but I have a whole host of different contracts, right? So 21 of those beds are what's considered MRT, where HRA would say, oh, this person is a high Medicaid user, so they qualify for this type of special population. Or we have somebody, we have 20 Pop A beds, and that is referring to people that are chronically homeless and need a different level of support. We have X amount of ESHI beds, which are street homeless to housed. We have X amount of forensic beds. We have X amount of Pop B coming from the state hospital. So we all have these different configurations and mixes. And all of that gobbledygook, all it means for me is I have to look at a bunch of numbers on an application and see if those numbers match up to the criteria that I have for somebody that can match up to a vacancy. For somebody that is living at home, for somebody that has been stably housed for a long period of time, they would probably through HRA receive what's called a straight SMI community care level 2 approval, which means that the number of beds that they might have access to is limited. So of those 500 beds, I have, give me 1 second while I count, 7, 5, 62, 75 total out of all of those beds that I could work with people that are coming from absolutely any place, meaning coming from home, couch surfing, living with a friend, living with a family member, just broke up with a girlfriend or boyfriend, anything, right? So that number is very small by comparison to the other special needs beds. And I did see another question. Can I say anything about waitlist times, prioritization for people with mental health disabilities pertaining to Section 8? I can't speak on Section 8. I am not first in Section 8, unfortunately. I know that they do open up the lists from time to time. I think I just saw one open and close in Huntington. It was open and closed like 3 days later or something like that. But unfortunately, like you have to get in during that window of time. And I don't know what their lottery system is because we just don't have Section 8 in my agency.
I know that
have
I put my son on the list for Section 8 5 years ago, and I got that email. And then
Yeah.
it
was there and gone. As soon as I saw it, I blasted it out to everybody that I could think of that had been waiting for housing. And I was like, put in your applications. And then it was closed and that was it. So have I seen other living arrangements work for people with mental illness, but is driven by the family? And thank you. I always try my best to be as honest and upfront with everybody as possible. I'm not going to help anybody by painting a pretty picture and saying it's all sunshine and rainbows out there when it comes to housing. There are so many good, valuable resources, and there are so many good things that we can accomplish, but how to get there and what's right isn't a clear path right now at all. They used to have a family support program where it was like a family that would take in somebody that had a psychiatric disability and could live with the family, and it would work for a period of time. I don't know if that model still exists anymore in housing. I think the last time I heard of it, honestly, was maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. If you ever have somebody that is able to offer a lower income opportunity for a rental apartment, and you have possibly a home attendant, or you have a home health aide or something like that, and care coordination and those types of resources where you can pull together what they call wraparound resources for somebody, that could be a viable option for somebody that might be more independent, but that is kind of tricky to navigate with the housing market being what it is and rental prices being what they are right now too. I know, like I see houses all the time for rent, $3, $4, $5,000, and it's like, how does anybody like eat or drive a car or anything for that matter these days anymore, right? So it's frustrating. It's an option to look into what wraparound services would be. I know that they had tried HCBS services for a while. That was something that some of the different agencies were marketing, which are home and community-based services, where they were kind of like a la carte services that somebody could qualify for through care coordination, and they'd have a therapist that would come in, or some kind of skills or some kind of peer advocate or support. I don't think it worked as well as they were hoping that it would. I think it was just not as accessible as they thought it was going to be for everybody, and it was too confusing. It was confusing to me, and I was helping put it together, and it was all over the place. But there can be possibilities for things. It's just a lot of trial and error and seeing what works for your individual, you know? There's
One
no such thing as cookie cutter either, so everybody's different.
Gail and Lee are going to kill me, but one thing I can't help but bring up in so many things that are happening right now in our government is for people to understand that Medicaid is a contributing factor to how everything gets paid. And I just want people to understand, maybe you could speak to that percentage of Medicaid, or, I don't know, that it's important that Medicaid continues to pay for housing.
I can't speak to percentage of Medicaid,
Okay.
unfortunately. So if you are looking at a supervised housing placement or an apartment treatment placement, those are what are considered Medicaid billable services, right? Because they have enhanced staff there, and because they have enhanced staff, somebody has to have Medicaid to qualify for those levels of care. And that also means that they have to demonstrate need, right? So you're going to have a lot of people that come in, and again, I will never understand what it is to see my family member or my loved one go off and need to be in a facility, and I would want them to be as safe and protected as possible. But when you're looking at the dollars and cents of it, when it comes to those, like the transitional living residents, the 24-hour supervised, the apartment treatment, they're going to say, oh, do they have Medicaid? Okay, they qualify for this. They don't have Medicaid? Nope, sorry. It's Medicaid billable program. So that's something to keep in mind. Thankfully, whatever they were talking about with Medicaid was kind of like there and gone in a blip right now. And we're not hearing that it's going to hurt anything as it relates to mental health services or mental health needs right now, thank God. But the reality is that we don't know what the future is going to bring. So it's very important to continue to advocate for those Medicaid dollars to be accessible for folks that have mental health needs.
Exactly. Thank you. That was well put.
You're welcome.
So everybody, Lee, Gail, I've muted everybody. So if you can mute yourself, and then I will, as you indicate who's going to speak next, I will, unmute, ask everybody to unmute themselves as they do. Thank you so much, Jodie. That was very informative. And again, we could probably spend 5 hours talking about this because it's such a confusing thing. And but we're so thankful that you're here tonight and that you do what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with everybody tonight. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. It's not always possible for me to answer the phone, but I can always respond to emails. So you are more than welcome to send me any questions that you have. I'm off for the next couple of days. I'll be back to work on Tuesday. That being said, I check my emails all the time anyway. If I can help or at least point somebody in the right direction, I'm always happy to.
Okay, I'm going to add that to the notes that I will also post on our website with the recording. So I'll add your email to that. Thank you. And I have your email too, but. So Gail or Lee, Gail, I guess.
Hi, I'm here. I'm here.
Thank you.
Jodie, I want to say a personal thank you to you. You've been wonderful. We do appreciate all that you do. And I will certainly be in touch with you because I have a pet peeve that I want to discuss.
Absolutely. I love pet peeves. I don't
love-
have
I-
I don't have a soapbox high enough for so many
No.
of the issues that we see with things. So if you have a pet peeve,
I just want to know why something doesn't take place. And I'm sure the bottom line is money. But in terms of advocacy, David is chairing our advocacy committee. So perhaps he would like to just say a couple of words with regard to being an advocate for your loved one, because there's nothing more important than advocating.
Thank you. Am I on?
Yes,
You're
you
on.
Okay.
you are. don't
I
know
was
why you're
supposed to speak later, which I will, but I just want, since we're following Jodie, I want to talk a little bit about advocacy. You've been reading a lot about what's going on in the papers, newscasts, and things like that. We must get very active. We don't want to lose Medicaid services. We don't want to lose Medicare services. We want more beds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You must contact your legislators to make sure services aren't taken away from us. We'll help you do that. On March 19th, we're going to have an advocacy meeting where we're going to talk about how to contact your legislators, who to contact, where to contact. We all must be proactive. We can't wait for the other person to do it for us. I'm not being a politician now, but we must prevent some of the cuts that are happening now in the federal government because they will damage our loved ones. We must get very much involved. We must start writing letters to the editor. We must start talking to our local politicians, our state politicians, our national politicians, and make sure they're on our side. If you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. You want what's best for your loved one. And we have to advocate for our loved ones. One of the things I'm thinking of, and this is not a Republican, Democrat thing, the New York State legislature passed a bill 2 years ago for extended housing and services for people with mental health issues. Nothing has happened.
And
Nothing. In those 2 years, lots could have happened. And there may not have been so many vacancies and so many whatever. So please, even before we have our advocacy meeting on March 19th, if something bothers you, contact your legislators, local, state, national, to make sure things change. The people in the national government have to know that there are people out there who have needs and are getting very concerned about all the cuts that are taking place that can impact on our loved ones.
okay.
We'll talk more about that on March 19th. I just
David,
before people left. Yes.
I just wondered if there's any way we can use our website to list how to contact these legislators in Queens and Nassau.
We'll definitely list the a handful of them, but also what's incredible about NAMI's capabilities is they are creating lots of email campaigns. Dave, I don't know, I guess you're ringing. Anyway, well, I'm going to include in the post of this meeting and the recording on our website a link to share your story to save Medicaid, our current frame of Medicaid. Lord knows we wanted to improve, but we don't want to lose
Excellent.
her.
I think that's the whole point of having an advocacy meeting, so that we can put a face and a name to a mental illness. And by doing that and telling our stories, we will have much more impact on the legislators. And we'll send out information with regard to the next meeting and how we can formulate a committee for that.
Actually, we have, for the people who are here, we have your emails. We'll send you all information about the March 19th meeting. We must do it. If we sit back quietly, nothing is going to happen. We must talk to all the legislators on all levels. And my speech is done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
To move on with what NAMI is all about. We have so many programs and so many wonderful leaders. I'd like for us to begin sharing all about NAMI. And I'd like to start with Lee, who has led a group called Family to Family. So could we ask you, Lee, to give a short summary of what Family to Family is all about?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I love Family to Family. I loved it from day one of the class. I have some students here, and I have my partner in Family to Family training. Lynn Mahoney is here tonight. We learn to be family to family leaders together. The reason that I love Family to Family is kind of reflected by what we're doing here tonight. We're being a community. And we had Jodie Dionne represent housing for us in a way that is so meaningful and so comprehensive and so helpful. This is something we all need to know. Well, Family to Family is the navigation guide to families who have a loved one with a mental illness. And the expertise in that program is kind of what we saw in Jodie tonight. She knew what we needed to know, and Family to Family knows what we need to know. And on the first day as a student in Family to Family, I had an insight based on the text that changed the way I relate to my loved one. And I've seen that happen over and over in Family to Family. Getting the right information at the right time with other families who are going through similar struggles and challenges is one of the most supportive kind of wings, the wind under your wings. Family to Family provides that lift. You've been struggling, you've been lost. You come to Family to Family, and we find each other and we help each other. And what I'd like to recommend to anyone who wants to know more, call us, we'll tell you about it. But also, if you go on YouTube and you look up Family to Family, NAMI, Family to Family, almost every state has videos with people talking about their Family to Family experiences. If we had time, I would have Phil Lamb, who's here or was here. I don't see his name now. And who else was here? I know there's another. Oh, Steve Conklin, who's in David and Gail's family support group, was in my last Family to Family class. And they could tell you about it. It's life-changing. And this is a time when we want change in our lives. Advocacy change that David and Gail have been talking about, and a way to approach the future with more hope and more security for our loved ones. So please, if you have any questions, please let us know. Look us up on YouTube and see our videos, see our website. Family to Family is there for you. And we have a class starting tomorrow with David and Gail.
And there are some openings.
There are some openings, and we will have more classes coming, I promise you. So please stay tuned. And thank you for being here. You are part of my community, which makes you part of my family. And I'm delighted to see you all. And I can't wait to see you in person. Ciao.
Thank you, Lee. Gail, would you like to share what your group is like?
Sure. Welcome everybody. Good evening. Thank you to Jody for that informative session we had, although it could be a bit discouraging. It was very helpful and informative, and we learned a lot. Lee Israel and I do a Sunday night meeting. We've been doing it for over 3 years now, and we have a dedicated core group as well as people who come in and out. It's called Caring and Sharing, or Sharing and Caring, however you want to term it. And we share and we care about the people who show up and tell us about their problems about and how to help their loved ones. And we're a support mechanism for them. Some of the people have been with us for the entire 3 years, and we see how their loved ones have grown and have improved and can function. And on the other hand, we also see new people who are struggling, and they come in and out. We have some people who just check in with us from time to time. We have people from all over. We have somebody from Michigan. Um, because it's virtual, we have the option of hearing from anybody, who cares to connect with us. Some of the people have been become good friends of ours, and I think we help everybody. I think we have a few participants with us today, in fact. So we welcome anybody who wants to join us, who wants to tell us their problems, who needs support, and recommendations for resources.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate it. John?
Hi,
Hi, John.
can you hear
Would you
me?
like to share with us tonight,
Sure,
please?
sure. First of all, I just want to say it's been great hearing about housing, and hopefully that'll help me with the work that I've been doing with NAMI in Queens and in Nassau. I've been part of NAMI since 2016, doing anything they asked me to do. I've done In Our Own Voice, I've done Ending the Silence. I've been part of Family to Family, and lately I've been doing Sharing Hope, which is doing a group in the Black and Brown community. But what Gail and Lee asked me to just talk briefly about is Pathways to Hope. Pathways to Hope has been a really great program for the past 2 years. It's kind of a 2-day conference that's put on by National. And what it really deals with, for the most part, is how your faith aligns with your mental health. So I've been able to kind of just kind of bring people together, from priests and rabbis to psychiatrists and psychologists, to talk about how their mental health jives with their faith. So it's been very, very good. The past 2 years, we've had a pretty good turnout and some incredible, incredible speakers, which have been really, really great. We've had a lot of people sign up to talk about challenges. So my role really is just to kind of facilitate the discussion. And from year one, when we had a rabbi and we had a faith healer, and then this past year we had national spokespeople who deal with mental health, just really sharing, and it's been just really worthwhile. Again, it's sponsored by NAMI National, and so it's kind of a grant that we have, and hopefully we'll have it again this summer. Again, it's a 2-day conference. It's national, and the first part of the day is National puts on kind of like a discussion and talks, and people come on, and then we come on. The first year we did it, the first day was virtual, and the second day we had it in person, where we had people come and we had a luncheon, and it was just really community folks just coming together. So it's been really, really worthwhile. I hope we do it more. And part of FaithNet, and again, just people coming together to share, and that's kind of what I've been really, really thankful for. The opportunity to go into communities, to talk about my faith, to talk about, especially in Black and Brown communities, to talk about things that we don't talk about enough. So that's kind of basically what Pathways to Hope is.
Thank you, John.
Mhm.
David, would you like to share about family support?
Sure. Gail Karen made it a little bit easier for me because what she spoke about was similar to what we do in family support. The only difference is ours runs by a program, which is NAMI oriented, but it's the same thing. Our family support group has been running for now over 2 years and 3 months. And people come and go, but we still have a base that, you know, there are people there all the time. We've become a family. We really have become a family. I see Steve's picture smiling, but I'm sure he would agree. We've even gotten to the point where we go out for dinner together every few months because we really become a family. We share our wants, we share our needs, we offer suggestions to each other. We're supposed to be meeting from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Sometimes we don't end till 9 o'clock because once we get involved in a conversation, you know, that doesn't mean people can't leave. But once we get into conversation, people want to get involved.
And I'm going to just interject. There's a nuclear of people who have been there from the onset, and they totally embrace all the new people. They share their journeys. They give them some suggestions. They give them hope. And the most important thing that we share with them is that you're not alone, that you have a community of people who walk your walk and talk your talk. And it's a community that shares experiences, offering to help one another, to give suggestions. And as David said, we have become a family to the point of they will either email one of us and say, can we talk, without the group. And so that's what we do.
I had a medical problem last night and I wasn't there. I got emails from people in the group, how are you? I mean, that's the kind of thing the group is. We have a saying that we've started since the beginning. And I think it's something that is so important for all of you, even if you don't join the group. After me, you come first.
And what that really...
So you've got to take care of yourself before you can take care of your loved one. We talk about, and you've heard this before, we talk about going on an airplane where the person in charge says, if you're with a child, put your mask on first before his, because you can't take care of the child if you can't take care of yourself. And we emphasize that. Your health comes really first before your loved ones, because if you're not well, you can't take care of your loved one.
You can't be a figure of support if you're not healthy.
And ours isn't the only group. You know, we're talking about ours, but we have various family support groups. And look on our website, you see the time and situations, and they're very helpful.
The next grouping that I would love to share with you, and I'm so proud of, is Kimberly and Matt, who run the peer-to-peer groups. So Kimberly and Matt, would you share with each other and the group?
I wrote a 3-minute speech, so I hope that's okay. And Matt's gonna.
You can do whatever you like, Kimberly.
All right,
Thank you.
right back to I was gonna. So yeah, thank you, Jody, for that bleak but informative talk. And yeah, so as you may know, peer-to-peer is a class that was developed to help people with mental health conditions to navigate their journey of recovery. And I think what's unique about that is, right, the fact that it is run or led by peers, and it's a judgment-free kind of space, which in my experience, I've seen, I think it makes people more comfortable to open up and at least take the first steps, regardless of how stable they might be or how far along in their recovery they are. The next session is going to be virtual, and that's going to start in March. And then Kimberly and I are very excited to be doing it for the first time in person at Pros in Hollis, and that's going to be in the spring sometime. And now I'll let Kimberly talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the program.
Peer-to-peer is a truly wonderful course. Peer-to-peer has helped me and so many people living with mental health conditions. It's basically an 8-week free mental health recovery skills class. One of my favorite parts is setting goals every week. This can help someone who's actively depressed get out of bed and do something productive, like go for a walk outside. We check in every week to see if you accomplished your goal, but if you don't, it's totally okay. We'll support you anyway. Sometimes I don't even finish my goals. Okay. So just come back to group, even if you don't. Okay. I love how we help people realize that mental health conditions are not their fault. It is the result of a chemical imbalance in our brains and can be triggered by a traumatic event. NAMI doesn't endorse any particular medicine nor therapy. We just expose you to the latest treatments that are shown to work. We also do mindfulness exercise to help alleviate our anxiety and stress levels. We learn what guided imagery is and how to relax by doing diaphragmatic breathing. People sometimes feel anxious when visiting with a doctor. NAMI peer-to-peer gives us a template where we can write down our current concerns and what we wish to get out of this doctor's appointment. We also create self-awareness grids so we can catch ourselves when we are starting to relapse. Then write down behaviors that could potentially prevent a mental health crisis. We also have virtual peer-to-peer groups. So if you have transportation problems, you can always go to the virtual one. And like what David Sill said, it turns into a family. The peers start caring about each other, giving each other advice. So it's truly an honor to be part of that group. And try to hold on. Hope will always be there. Hold on, pain ends.
I just have to say, I'm going to interrupt now that I've known Kimberly since she was in kindergarten, and she has grown and matured so much. I am so proud of her. It's fantastic.
I love you too. You're going to make me cry. Thank you.
All right. The next topic is Unites. Janice is not here tonight. She is having a wonderful vacation, and I am substituting for her. I have worked with Janice for Unites on many occasions. Unites is a socialization group for the peers. It takes place every Monday night. And on those Monday nights, these young people have a wonderful time. One night it's pizza night, game night, karaoke night, arts and crafts. It's a feeling of being together and not being alone. The emphasis is socialization. The emphasis is you have a friend. There is a place that you can go to, and it's a place where you're welcomed. I have worked with Janice on many occasions, and I get such joy in participating with it. Not only does NAMI Unites have Monday nights, there is bowling on Saturdays once a month. And the young people get together, bowl, and have a blast of a time. They've also done miniature golf. They've done Dave and Buster's. And it's a way of socializing. It's a way of being with peers. And it's just a welcoming, wonderful opportunity for them. My own son participates and loves going when he can. So I have to give credit to Janice. She has started this program. I have been very honored to be her associate at times, and all the credit really goes to Janice at this point. So on behalf of Janice, this program is a wonderful program. The next one would be Ending the Silence. Debbie? Hi, Debbie. You're muted.
Muted.
You're
Okay.
muted.
You're muted, Debbie.
Unmute. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. My name's Debbie Euclid. You met my daughter a little while ago, Kimberly. For the past couple of years, Janice, her daughter Jessica, my daughter Kimberly and myself have brought the program Ending the Silence, along with John going in as well, John Johnson, who you met earlier, into Nassau County's high schools. It's a program where we present an audio visual, and we go into high school health classes and engage the students, teaching them about the different mental health conditions so we can make them feel comfortable talking about issues as they come up with themselves, with their friends, with their family members, their relatives. Our goal is to end the silence where students can learn and feel comfortable discussing these issues. And as the need arises, it also provides them with resources. We tell them about the telephone number, a hotline 988. We mention the important people in their school, like guidance counselors, teachers, social workers, that can further guide them to the right places, as well as we teach them about NAMI and all the amazing programs you're hearing that support these young people, adults, as well as the family and friends of people with these mental health conditions. And the beauty is that the last time we presented, the students were open enough to start asking Kimberly and Jessica about their mental health disorder. And it was really an eye opener. It was so nice. And students will come up at the end of class and tell them, I feel that way sometimes, like the girl in the video. And, we reiterate the resources out there to help them. So, would be great to touch on as many schools as possible this year. And Katie is going to join them as well.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Debbie. And one of our wonderful board members, our newest board member, Mary Ann, who has just jumped in, feet first, hands first, and does everything, a little bit of everything. Do you want to talk a little bit about NAMI?
You're still muted, Mary.
There you go.
There
Am
you
I
go.
right?
Yeah,
All
you're
right, so
good.
you see that I'm not too savvy with that, though.
Oh, welcome to my world.
Oh, gee. Yeah, like Gail said, I'm Marion. I'm one of the newest members. Myself and my sister, I'm speaking on behalf of her as well. She's on a business trip in LA and couldn't be here, and she's very upset about that, but I'll do my best. But we're both very happy to be here on the board with these wonderful people that we've met, dedicated to ensuring that NAMI Queens Nassau has the ability to continue providing programs needed by so many in the community. We primarily do going to work on the fundraising and grant writing. I'm on the fundraising and grant committee. NAMI is a 100% donation and grant funded organization, so we can use all the help we can get. Our survival depends on the generosity of you and so many to keep the many free programs offered going on. We are having our annual gala. Please mark your calendar for the biggest fundraiser that we have. It's Wednesday, May 14th. And for the annual Beautiful Minds Gala, if you want more information, you can get it from the website. But we had a great time last year. It's a lot of fun. You can find the specifics, like I said, on the website. Please consider attending it. And if you can't attend it, please consider donating to it and asking all your friends and family to donate. We'd love you to throw a wide net out there. And if you have any businesses that could sponsor, or friends or family that would like to donate, we would really, really appreciate all the help we can get. And if you're not a member of the NAMI Queens Nassau organization, please become a member. It's a minimal fee, and you too can be an integral part of this community in helping so many. and being a part of it, you keep abreast of all the wonderful things that are being offered by so many talented and dedicated persons. I hope to see you on May 14th. Again, we are so happy to be a part of this. All you wonderful people who are involved, we're just so happy to be a part of it with you. And well, I hope to see you May 14th and spread the word out there.
Thank you. Thank you. There are some other programs, people who have not been able to join us this evening. There's a program that is called Criminal Justice, and that is led by Maria as well as Linda and Eric. And they do a wonderful job in trying to understand and help change the legal system for those who are incarcerated because they have a mental illness. So that's another program that we do have. And in the springtime, we're hoping to start a new class, Basics, and that deals with school-age people from 5 years old to about 17. And I have to say that it was a learning experience for me taking the class. I found out so much information that I never knew existed. I have been an advocate for my son since kindergarten, and my son is in his 50s now. Had I known then what I now know, I would have been a better advocate. So Basics is a great class for those who have young children, and we're looking forward to starting
That's
one.
high school, yeah.
And it's also for high school, and we're looking forward to having the class start sometime in the spring. And the leaders of that will probably be Linda, myself, and David. Okay. Liz, is there anything else that you would like to share? Liz?
Yes, I'm thinking.
Okay.
Gail, Kimberly had a question. Can we stop for Kimberly?
Sure. What was your question,
How
Kim?
much does the gala cost? I want to go to the gala. How much is it?
Good question.
Mom, where are you?
Mom's gonna treat you to
Mom
it.
is treating you.
I was, it's so funny. I was looking online and looking for the cost too.
That will be posted.
Talk about that with your mom.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Would love
Dad.
to see you there, Kimberly.
Yeah, I think we're going to sponsor Mark being there as well. Mark is
Yeah.
our.
That would be great to have Mark there. He's a nice guy.
Thank you.
We think so too.
Oh, I think everybody did a wonderful job of giving a highlight of what we've been doing. And don't forget our monthly meetings like this, where we try to cover specific topics of interest to our
Liz,
members and parties.
Liz, do you want to say something about David Heimowitz's groups?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
I forgot. I apologize.
Yeah, well, it's okay. We do a lot. So it's, it's a good thing. So what David Heimowitz is David is a master social worker that he's neck and neck with David and Gail in terms of the longest running support group that NAMIQN supports. Because David, I started going to David's support group 12 years ago. And I think I started going to his group before I was official member, and maybe even before I did family to family, I'm not sure, but it's ongoing. And we're dedicated to that. So David Heimowitz's support groups are twice a month on a Thursday night at the Unitarian Church in Manhasset. One Thursday night is supposedly dedicated to co-occurring mental illness and those who are addicted to something. And I must say that most of the caregivers who attend that support group, their loved one may not exactly still be in the throes of addiction. They may still be in their mental health recovery, but that journey is never simple. So they are always, they come and like all the other groups become a family. And everybody wants to know where their loved one is in their journey at this point. So that's a very cohesive group. The other Thursday night is also, sometimes people from co-occurring show up that too, because we lose track of the sequence of Thursdays. But
They just need to be.
they just know to show up then. And the focus there too is, a serious mental illness. People there are, I always say they come in hot. They come in hot because they are often in crisis, as with a lot of our support groups. But key to all of this is that sort of family unit that, evolves with a consistent support group. And David's other strength is that he had the privilege of working for so many of our local agencies over the past 30 years. He understands how mental health court works. He understands how AOT works and how to get an AOT. Focusing on Nassau County, I have to say, not so much the city of New York, because that's a different process for a lot of these things. But so he knows the ins and outs on trying to get your loved one care. And he's pretty firm with people. It's like, it's very interesting how we all define the different groups that we participate in and the vibe and the feel. And I think it's so important that if you attend one of our groups and it didn't work for you, try a different one.
Exactly.
We all have different personalities, and there's not an age or a race or anything. It's just the vibe of the meeting. And it's really important that you feel comfortable, that you can share.
It's
And
important also to become part of a community that
Yes.
understands and can help you along in your journey. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Liz, but I just want
No,
you
it's
to know if there is anyone who has any questions for us, please feel free to raise your hand, whatever, and we'll try to answer some of your questions. No? Okay.
And I do have to give out a shout out to John Johnson, because he really is the guy that shows up. John goes everywhere for us. If nobody can table for an event, which we're very dedicated to going to health fairs because we want to get the word out about our service, John will go, and our Sharing Hope program, John is heading up. He didn't really talk about Sharing Hope so much, but he's heading up our outreach into Queens and focusing on faith communities, because that is very important in the Black and Brown community. So thank you, John, for doing that. It's been a very important.
I just noticed that one of our participants is here. We call her our Madam Secretary, and she spreads the word for our group. And there is Steve.
Steve's raising his hand, actually.
Yes, Steve, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I have a question for Kimberly and Matthew, and I know that you said that you didn't have the exact date yet, but can you explain a little more of the format where you're going to bring peers into pros?
Yeah, so we're still working out the schedule for that. So far, we determined that it's probably going to be sometime in the early morning, afternoon, possibly with a lunch break. But yeah, I guess we're still working out the details. It will be the first time that I've done the program in person, so I think it will be a good experience. I don't know, Kimberly, did you have anything to add to that?
Unmute.
You
Kimberly,
have to
unmute.
unmute yourself, Kim.
Kimberly,
Kimberly,
press the-
unmute.
Kimberly,
Make sure
yes,
you
you're muted.
unmute.
There you go.
There you go,
I'm
huh?
so sorry. So anyways, NAMI and pros are working together to provide a wonderful peer-to-peer class in Hollis, Queens. They have like a pizza break, so it's really fun. And it's basically just mental health recovery skills. We do mindfulness exercises like diaphragmatic breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, breathing with words. So it's a lot of great stuff. We also learn about how to prepare for a doctor's visit because I get anxious before them. So I like to write out what my current concerns are and stuff. We get to make visions about like where you want to be in a few years, or like what do you want to do. Um, it's pretty no stress though. Like all you have to do is show up, pay attention, participate, and then you get a certificate. There's no
Well,
test. It's much better.
right. So, like, my son is already there at Pros, and I'm already grateful that Unite crashes Pros on Fridays, because he spends so much time there. It's hard to do like a Monday evening, right? He's at Pros all day Monday, and then he does a Zucker group at 4:30 or something. So he's shot by Monday evening, so we can't make the Monday night. So if you're gonna crash Pros during the day, just like the Friday, yeah, well, I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. We've
Yeah.
determined at least that much, that it's going to be during the week, a weekday in the afternoon. Yeah, we know
Every
that.
Friday.
I've
It'll
had
be
the
every Friday.
Oh,
I've had
Johnson, you
the
know?
yeah, I've had the pleasure of every other week being a part of the Friday Pros for about an hour, hour and a half, and Pros Unite, and it's been really, really good. We have a great group, and we do all kinds of different things from talking about healthy relationships and talking about overcoming challenges and stuff like that. So people are really kind of into it. I'll be there this Friday at 11 o'clock. And so it's good. I'm glad I'm there every other Friday.
And we've been
I
getting a pretty good turnout for that too. I went to one a couple weeks ago with John, and I think we had about 20 people show up for that. That was good.
Yeah, it was
That's
all good.
great.
Fun.
That's
Yeah, it
great.
was good.
Jaden and I used to do it. However, we had to stop because of the stairs going up.
Mm.
And so it's really hard
Oh,
for the mature people to get up those stairs. But we did great activities. We did such wonderful opportunities to interact with all of the young people.
And the participants are so lovely and so
Oh, they're
so
just
supporting of each other.
so wonderful. So it's really a great opportunity for everything to gel together. I'm sorry that I can't do it anymore. I feel as if I'm the one who's missing out.
Lee, you're muted. Lee, you're muted.
Lee,
You're muted, Lee.
Lee. Oh,
I'm sure you're saying wonderful things, but we didn't hear them. You're muted.
muted. Oh,
oh, okay. Write it in the chat.
I
There you
got it.
go.
Okay.
Oh,
There you
What
go.
what my battery is dying. That's why I had a problem. I was there on Friday. We had about 20 people, and I was so happy to be there because for the last couple of months I couldn't participate because of other commitments. And Gail, I know exactly what you and David mean. I missed it so much when I couldn't go, and I can't wait to go next month. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
You know, when you talk about challenges, we did something the last time we were there where they had to build a construction out of spaghetti and have a marshmallow at the top of it. And that took team effort. And that was such a wonderful opportunity for everyone to share ideas and do their thing and communicate. So
It was great. I was there
program.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great program.
It was a great
So,
activity.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you, Carmine DeSena, for that because
yes.
you
That's
brought
very
that about.
true. Yeah.
Any questions for any of us from the participants?
I'd like to say something. I just want to
No.
thank, is that okay?
Of
ahead.
course, I'm
Okay.
teasing you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who's here. If we could feel each other through the Zoom, I feel like we did tonight. I think we're on a screen, but we connected over our shared interests and our shared hopes and dreams. And I hope that we stay in each other's circle and continue to be part of this community together. And I want to thank each and every one of you who took the time to be here with us, each and every one of you who spoke about what you're doing to make our community better and to make our participation in our community more meaningful. And I especially want to recognize David and the fact that he's going to help us advocate for our
As
loved
is Gail
ones.
Karen. As is Gail Karen.
Well, as are all of us. Yes, I don't want to leave out Gail Karen. Absolutely, Gail.
And
Um,
Gail Sills.
and Gail, would you like to take over? No,
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What I want is for us to celebrate the fact that we can be together. Even if it's virtual, we can be together and we can work together and we can share. And that makes me feel so hopeful. I thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here.
I especially want to thank Jodie for taking the time to meet with us and to be so realistic about what our journey is going to be like for someone in particular who has been walking that walk and trying so desperately to get housing. It's been a very long and hard and sometimes discouraging journey. But listening to you, I know I'm not alone. And I understand that even more so. So thank you for your kindness, your expertise, and joining us.
So happy to be with you guys tonight. I'm so sorry I'm such a Debbie Downer sometimes when it comes to housing.
You're a realist.
I want to be realistic with everybody, and I want to make sure that we can understand that while there's challenge, there's also opportunity and possibility for success, and the ongoing advocacy that we can all bring to the table, and the ongoing, push for what's best for everybody that deserves to have every opportunity to succeed in life can help us all to get there.
Jodie, you're not a Debbie Downer. You're a reader realistic. So
I try. Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
everybody's
It's
time
my
listening to me
it's
tonight
our
too.
pleasure knowing you.
Mike, if you want
Thank you
to
so much.
and ask your question.
Mr. O'Keefe?
Gail and David, can I give you a call either tonight or tomorrow?
I'm sorry.
I wanted to give you and David a call, Gail, tonight or tomorrow.
Sure. Absolutely. You're always free. You know that.
Yes, yeah,
Free to contact us for sure.
Will do.
I think Katie has our number.
I have your email.
I have it, Gail.
Okay,
Okay.
great. If you want
We're
to,
not going to sleep now.
if you want to call us right afterwards, please feel free to. We're here.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And I love your daughter.
Me too.
Thank you.
We love you.
Liz, do you want to end with anything?
I think we're good unless anybody else has any questions. I don't see anything in the chat. So thank you all for coming tonight. And again, we'll, post a recording. Really appreciate all of you being here. And I'm typing in the chat saying, we need you to advocate. We really need your voices.